We'll see. You got the same lockdown here as Toddy. I have to keep wearing a cap now when I'm in lockdowns, mate, because it's just getting a little bit long now and a little bit grey as well. It's not a good sign, eh? I was gutted about last night with the cricket, man, with Pakistan. Have you heard anything about that? I was all set to watch the series because Pakistan is so good, man. Like, it's awesome to watch that.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I was ready to go. I had a hiney in hand and ready to go, and then it was just a replay. And I was like, couldn't see anything. So I checked on Crick Info, and then they just said they're still in their motel rooms and everything like that. So,
and the tour's cancelled. Something must have happened big time, man. Like, I haven't heard anything yet. I hope they're all right anyway.
Yeah, that's the main thing. There must have been something quite serious for them to, pull out last minute, game day. It's not that the players didn't want to be there. They were there. They were ready to go. So, hopefully they get back safely.
So tell me, except Australia, is there any country you haven't played for in indoor cricket yet?
Wait, how did I know you were going to bring this up, bro?
Run me through. I want to know. So run me through the countries you played for other than New Zealand. How's that all rolled out?
I've only played for two, mate. That's it. That was all.
Who's the other one?
New Zealand and India.
India, right.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? It was in the O2 World Cup?
Yeah, O2
World Cup. Yeah.
I was away with just a pre-season, I think it was, with the Firebirds. I was down in Marlborough. I never got selected for the New Zealand side, so I was obviously pretty gutted. Went down there, and then I got a message through the centre owner saying, look, there's been a visa issue with India. Do you think you and Jeets would be keen to play? And so you sort of look like an Indian. Are you keen to come play? And I was like, oh shit, we'll see how that goes.
That's racist.
We ended up coming up, and Jeets got pulled into the game. I didn't get pulled in. So I played, and I got one of our in-house players to come play with us. Turned up, they had, I think they had maybe 6 or 7 players. They tried to get a couple of local guys to come in. That was totally a massive different experience. It was a different experience, sitting there against you guys doing the haka for starters. First game we played, it was against Australia. So I was bowling quickish back then. And I remember bowling my 2 overs to Jay Otto, and it might have been Brent Ratherty, I think it was. And we got India got their first World Cup point. So I went and batted third to chase it. So I bowled my 2 overs in that third partnership, and had to face Corey Otto. And he broke my 2 ribs. He hit me flush, and I had never experienced anything like that before, and I couldn't breathe. I literally just could not breathe. And it was, it was so sore. We got the first World Cup point, the guys with the drums and, all of that jazz going on. And then the only rule that I had was I wasn't allowed to play against you guys.
Right.
So that was the only rule. Otherwise played against England and everything like that. I was only supposed to play 2 games. I ended up playing all of them except for against you guys.
I remember facing 1 ball from Corey. And I'm so glad that I faced him, and so glad it was only for 1 ball. I don't know if he was playing Mr. Nice Guy, but it was one on a pretty good length, which I just had to put the bat there and somehow got it down up 2 over and went for a run. And then I gave him heaps of shit about it as I ran past.
Yeah, those are back in the days where you go into your new partnership and you're coming at your first ball, you always just get behind it, dot it up. You're not going to run. But man, it come off the seam, and I've got my arm up here, and it's just hit me, and I just could not breathe. So that tickled a bit.
How did you find bowling after you got hit there?
Yeah, no, I was all right. I was fine. I think we bowled first, and so I think we bowled first, and I bowled my 2 overs.
Yeah,
and then we
and
chased it
chase.
down.
Mm.
But yeah, it was such a wicked experience, man. It was off the chain because I played fairly well that tri series, but I think with my attitude and the way I was back there, that was always going to hold me back. But man, it was pretty cool. So then you guys do the haka, which was unique.
So indoor for you, where it started, like, was it down at the Wellington Centre? Was it your first ever experience of indoor cricket?
Yeah, so I was down there. Robbie Kerr used to do World Series cricket, so I was down there. Yeah, and I was never any good at all.
How old were you?
I think I was. I showed Robbie it. I've got a certificate. I think it was from '94. I think I was like 13 or something.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah, but I was never any good at it. So, yeah, it was quite good.
Do you remember your first feelings about indoor though? Like, is it something that sort of just grabbed you and you had to keep playing, or did you just keep getting dragged into it and then eventually started loving it, or how did that work?
Yeah, I did keep getting dragged in. I didn't like it at the start because I was pretty crap at it. But I went to a Super League game. So I didn't understand cricket because back in the day, Super League for me was the league. Remember the league used to be called Super League, the English version?
Yeah.
So I didn't understand it when people were saying, oh, we're going off to Super League and stuff like that. So I ended up going to watch it. But what really got me was all the hoo-ha, the grabbing and the verbals that were going on and all of those. And I was like, oh, this could be actually quite cool. I was pretty chirpy back then. That was the only thing I had going for me. So, yeah, I really enjoyed the chirp about it. And then, yeah, trying to play them with some Colts and everything like that.
So when you because obviously you've become a phenomenal player, so it's it's in your strengths always like me has been really bowling quick. So when did that all start clicking for you? Like how did you start learning how to bowl? Or when did you find out that you could actually bowl and bowl quick?
I had a pretty bad back injury when I was playing football. And I don't know how it was, but I played in the first 11 and I was a specialist fielder. I had really good reactions. So I had a really bad back injury and then I was out for about 6 months, 7 months. And I could come back and I could bowl fairly sharpish. And then, yeah, sort of grew into it. I had Graham Murray, Billy, was a pretty damn good coach there. Another quick bowler. So just putting all these new things together and, learning how to run in properly and let things go and, about the arms and everything like that, making sure you got high arms and then all of a sudden I could actually send it down. But I think it was the more that I did it and the more comfortable I felt with about doing it. So I never tried to swing the ball because I couldn't swing it. I would just go off the pitch. I had no control over that. So all I had to do was just bowl quick and hit the stumps.
Mm.
So, yeah.
So Billy was really the only coaching influence that you had around your bowling and you just things just because you were doing it over and over again, building up, and then all of a sudden things were just clicking into place and you had people tapping on your shoulder saying, mate, you're pretty sharp.
Yeah. So, yeah, in my younger days, it was pretty much Billy just on his own. I never had any coaching. I was never any rep sides or for outdoor or anything like that. So I had no coaching. But then that's why I guess to be fair, I'm really loyal to indoor. As such than over outdoor because that's probably what's given me my push. That's so everything always for me always hangs on indoor. I'm quite what's the word? I'm pretty proud of where I was and all the people that have helped me, and mainly they're all indoor players.
Right.
So yeah, it's just you had really good guys in your corner. They had the Graham Murrays and stuff like that that would always be in your ear saying, look, you can do this. You learn from my mistakes. This is what I used to do. Stop being mouthy. Mouth off for that guy, but not this guy. But then getting into the outdoor stuff, that sort of flowed on through and then it started becoming a bit of a career. But I'd always go back to indoor, no matter what.
So you touched on the Firebirds before. You were sniffing around the second 11 team, and did you ever play for Wellington, the top team, or was it when you went down to Canterbury?
I got probably won't go into it too much, but I got sort of got pushed out of Wellington and realised that the people that I was hanging around with, I was never going to be a career, and so I only had one chance. So I packed up and moved. I went to Canterbury, but I'd never been to Canterbury, so I didn't know anybody down there. So I went down.
Did they offered you a contract to go down, or you just went
down? Yeah. So that was with through Mike Shrimpton, who's passed away. Good man. So it was just a club stuff down there. But then what had happened was I was bowling. And Canterbury were ready to come on after us, and they were like, "Who the heck is this guy?" And quick funny story was about 2 months beforehand, I always used to be a net bowler for the touring teams, so the Black Caps in Australia, whoever used to come over.
Yeah, I've done a bit of that. Yeah.
And I were at the basin one day and bowling to the Black Caps, and Nathan Astor was batting, and it was real dewy morning, and I've slipped and I've sent the beamer out, and it's hit Nate's hand and broke his hand, and he had to miss the test match. We got down there, and he was looking. He was like, I got to my first first training camp with them, and I was obviously blown away. There was Chris Cairns and Harris and Bondi and all of these guys. And Nathan Astor turns up and he looks at me and he's like, "Man, you look familiar." And I was like, "Oh shit!" And then that was a bit of a gag about that. So
did he reckon? Say, did you tell him I was the guy that broke your hand?
Yeah. So yeah. But down in Canterbury, man, that was just I have no words for that. You're growing up, and these are your idols that you see on TV, and literally you're going off to have a coffee, or you're having a training with Shane Bond, and he's your mentor, and you're at a gym session, and you're standing next to Richie McCaw and all of these athletes, so you're just sitting there going, wow, this is crazy. We had a really, really hard coach, Dave Norsworthy from South Africa, and yeah, man, it was hard, but it was just insane. And that sort of gave me a pretty big stepping stone, and trying to make that side, like I was saying before, Bondi and Ken's, every time the Black Caps were home, I was never going to get a game. But the best thing was that it was frowned upon if you didn't turn up and be around them. So all the young guys would have to learn off these guys. And the environment that they created was, you could see why Canterbury back in the day were just unbeatable.
Wow.
So,
what are some of the things that, can you remember some of the conversations you had with Bondi and some of the things he gleamed out of him?
Yeah, a lot of it was the back issues. So this is why I was when I was playing, and but it was actually about being honest and not trying to be an imposter as such. So he knew that I had a back injury, and he was quite well known for his back injuries, and it ended up coming to a game, and I've come into bowl, and I couldn't feel my legs. So the ambulance, we're at Lincoln Green, and the ambulance came on to take me off. And what had happened was my disc, stress fractures and everything like that had hit a nerve. And I came back to first class cricket, I think it was about 7 months later. And this is where the addiction with pills came into it. And Bondi, the best thing about Bondi, from talking to him was, he had been through those similar things, and trying to stay away from pills. It's cool that I was around those guys, but I just had to be honest with myself. Could I actually do it? You need to do the gym work first. You need to be fit. But me back then was, man, I don't want to miss out on this, because someone else is going to come and take your spot, right? So you've just got to. Back then it was just, you just take pills, harden up, get an injection, get back on the field. But the best thing from Bondi, which has probably saved me quite a lot, and it wasn't just him, a few of the other guys, Brendan McCullum and that, were just, you've got to take your time. When you're injured, you've got to get it right. But yeah, it was the big things about that was just about, not being an imposter and pretending that you're something that you're not. Going up and saying to Chris Harris, who was our captain at the time, "No, I'm all good, bro. I'm good to go." And playing knowing that you're really, really battling. But But yeah, it was an unbelievable time down there. Those, what was that, 5 years that I was there.
Wow.
So sort of been in and out, playing all the warm-up games and going away with the guys and just rubbing shoulders with these legends of our game that's still being talked about today, which was just incredible. And then had to quickly get up and leave Canterbury. So I got a phone call saying that Dad was quite sick. So I got up and left everything behind, and then came up to Wellington and yeah, played a couple of games for Wellington, and then realised that my body wasn't as what I thought it would be.
So what year was your first year at Canterbury?
2004, 2005,
Yeah, right.
something around there.
And there for 5 years. So remember how many games you played Canterbury?
Oh, it wouldn't have been that many, to be fair. You know, you're in and out, 12 man a lot, running a lot of drinks. Yeah, but all the warm-up games, and especially when the Black Caps weren't there, you know, I made my debut for Canterbury against CD, and I was the only non-Black Cap player to play in our Canterbury side.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was insane.
So, I had a similar my experience with Auckland back in 2001, where I played some one-day cricket for them. I had exactly same experience as what you did with an injury. I'd played really well for the second team and got some wickets, and then they had a couple of injuries. The guys like Andre and that group were over in Australia for the one-day series, so they weren't available. Kyle Mills was injured, couldn't bowl, so he was played for Auckland as a batsman, but couldn't bowl, so they were looking for a bowler. And I was the one who'd taken a couple of wickets back in the second team at the same time on a trip, and so I got the call up. But in that game that I took wickets, I'd got an injury in my ribs, something I'd never ever got before, and it was like, well, I'll see the physio and I'll get her take on it. The physio was the coach's wife, so they were obviously pretty close, and they ended up letting me play, you know, and just seeing how I went. And, you know, I bowled probably half the pace I wanted to bowl out there, and sort of felt like I'd let myself down, you know, and, you know, played 3 or 4 games and then got the boot. But, yeah, it's an interesting decision to make sometimes. You know, you think it's your last shot, right? And I'm not going to get this again. So what do I do? And that time was right in the middle of the when the players were being represented by the Players Association. That had just started, and there was a lot of first class and international players running around the scene telling the younger guys who hadn't had those contracts, you can't play, you can't let the rest of the players down, actually sending threatening sort of stuff out. It's actually quite sad. I got one from a friend that I was really disappointed in, but I won't say who the guy's name was. But yeah, it was a really strange sort of time. Like you say, it was an opportunity to come up. You know, what do you do? Do you take it, or do you sit back and just hope another opportunity comes up? You know, because sometimes it just won't, right?
Yeah, correct. And you know, and it proved. I think it was I ended up having the back operation, and you know, I'd kept a player out for quite a long time, and it happened to be Hamish Benham. You know, he was sitting on the sidelines for a wee while. I was keeping him out, but then obviously had an operation. He got his chance and he took it. So, you know, then all of a sudden you go down the pecking order, which means that, you know, you're sitting in your hospital, but you go, shit, I need to get back here. You know, so the only way to do it was, for me at that time, was to numb everything and just get back out there to prove that I was still good enough. But yeah, it was a pretty bad decision. I think looking back now, you know, even trying to bend over at the moment to pick up my son is really hard. You know, struggle to do it with my shoelaces. You know, I've just had my 11th operation on my body.
That's crazy.
I've got another one to come. And yeah, there's a lot of effects from not looking after your body and, you know, trying to be this imposter, trying to be this hero that you were back in the day. There's a lot of effects. You know, my liver and kidneys are playing up at the moment. Yeah, there's just...
Is that because of the pills?
Are
you off them?
Yeah. So, which is a really good story. So New Zealand cricket had been, you know, the Players Association and the and that have been absolutely amazing. And to be fair, they've probably saved me. I was going down a really, really bad path. It got to the point where, the morphine that I was taking wasn't enough. They, between him and them and Charlotte, got me to go and see somebody. I got given this an indoor cricket opportunity to coach the under-17s in a World Cup. I was being in this imposter where I could hide the pill addiction. And then I just sat down with New Zealand Cricket and Charlotte, and we decided that, I decided that I didn't want the kids to see me in this situation, having the first thing in the morning, having to pull up to be able to walk, to do the normal things that everyone does. And I didn't want to be around that. So I'd made a decision on October the 17th, 2017, that I wasn't going to take any pills. So we got down there. It was the hardest 2 weeks that I'd ever done in my life, as you can probably imagine. But the best thing was I had a silver fern on my chest. Whilst not playing, I was coaching, but I had a silver fern on my chest. But importantly, I was sort of in charge of this new crop of kids that were coming up, and I didn't want to be the wrong kind of role model for them. So since then, 2017, been no pills. Clean as they come. And now I've cut down on the alcohol, so now I'm drinking a lot of kombucha to help myself out. Yeah, good man. Trying to help myself out. But so that's sort of the route that it was going down. And I think you would have seen the Trans-Tasman that we played. I ended up being in a hospital. I think it was the 3rd or 4th test, and just took myself out. And that was something to do with my lung. But you grow an arm and a leg when you've got a silver fern on your chest. I don't know about the other guys, but for me, it was an opportunity, and it was just that. It was just an opportunity. But I took it really seriously because not everybody has that opportunity to put a silver fern on their chest. And when I do, I tried to give everything 150%. And the fern always was first before I was, if that sort of makes sense. So no matter how sore, how injured I was, I would always make sure that the fern was first.
Yeah, you brought up a couple of things that I've wanted to talk to you about. One was the coaching side of things, and also the Trans-Tasman, which I do want to get to at some stage as well, if we can. Actually, we might as well do it now. You and I, we were like ships in the night a little bit with the indoor team because we've played, around each other and against each other so much over the years. But never met up in a New Zealand team together for whatever reasons, if it's non-selections or not availability or whatever that looked like. Until 2017, where, we got to play together in that Trans-Tasman. And if there was any one of those players that I was really excited to play with, all of them, of course, but it was you, because we'd not been in the same environment for such a long time, and where you and I together, really spearheaded with Crooksy. We spearheaded that bowling unit, and it was a lethal unit, man. Leif Johnson in there. The list goes on. Jason Hill. Where do I start?
Scotty D.
Scotty Davies. It becomes a bit of a joke, because he just started as a batsman on the other team. He'd start asking questions about where you're getting runs from, But I was really excited to play with you, man, and it was really cool. And the other thing is your performance for that team. You got player of the series. Quite rightly, you were a leap ahead of the rest of us in that group, and I've just named off some pretty spectacular players, but you were the phenomenal player in that week of cricket. What do you put that down to? What did you have as a preparation leading up to that, and what was your focuses, and what do you reckon got you into a position to play like that?
So there were a couple of things. I thought. I thought after the Masters World Cup in South Africa, the over 30s, I thought I was done. And it was Paul Anderson, single-handedly just had asked me a couple of questions. One, was I available? And two, where did I want to field? So the first one was fairly straightforward. It was a home trans Tasman. It meant that my family could come and see me, but I knew that I was mentally and probably physically far behind everyone else. And because we got a list of the names, and you know, I get to play with Guy Coleman. This is amazing. You know, then we'll talk about it later. But you were one of the idols that I was growing up with. You know, and I'm just in this going, this is so cool. How can I not put my hand up to play in this? So that was cool. So I needed to train really hard. But then Paul had said, we've got a couple of really good three-liners with LJ and, you know, Hilly and stuff. Yeah. And then he said, would you field cover? It's like, cover? I've never fielded cover in my life, and you want me to field cover for my country? And he said, look, out of all of us, you're probably, you know, you got the natural talent to go sort of field anywhere. And so I asked him, were we serious? And he said, yep. And so I trained. And so I asked Dave Bell, who at that stage was one of the greats in Wellington at fielding at cover. So I'd asked him, I said, could you help me? So every single day, twice a day, morning and afternoon, I would go to the centre. The centre was like literally a 5-minute walk for me. So I had my cousin was throwing me balls, and then I had Dave coming in doing specialist cover fielding. So I had a blindfold on every single day, and we'd train in our New Zealand kits, you know, and it would just be us. Nobody else is in the centre. Have a blindfold on, so I got used to hearing the ball off the bat and where I should go. So I could feel the ball on the ground, and I knew where I had to be. So I was training my left hand and everything like that. And I think what it was something different that brought a new energy to it. And then I think we were probably about a week or so out, and I spoke to two huge mentors of mine. First one was Graham Murray, Billy. And I said to him that I'm just, I'm a little bit concerned that I'm probably not going to be good enough, and I'm going to let myself down. And so we went out, had a coffee, had some lunch, and his advice was, you don't have to prove anything to anybody, and it's all up here. If you think you're good enough, then you're good enough. And so the next day, I had already organised a meeting. I called up Robbie Kerr, one of the New Zealand greats, and we had a coffee, and I was talking about, I think I might be overtraining. And then he said, look, do you think an extra 500 balls for your throwdowns is going to make any difference? Do you think fielding another 100 balls is going to make any difference? I said, no. So I think it was the last five days off, didn't even touch a cricket ball. I went up to Tauranga, and yeah. What made it a lot easier was, one, I got to bat with Gooner again. But two was I knew that I was going to retire after that. And so I'd mentioned to you guys that, you know, this will be the last time playing for New Zealand. And it felt like it just took a lot of weight off my shoulders. You know, I didn't feel nervous. I was able to deal with the nerves. I learned the new technique that I was talking to the other day about with Hendo, was about the new technique about nerves and how I dealt with it. Every time I went out to bat, that was always my biggest flaw. I felt like I was so confident, you know, and it didn't matter. You know, it was fitting that it was against Australia, but there was no way that Aussie were going to beat us. And I was willing to do anything and everything to be around you guys. And yeah, we did it. It was great.
What was the technique you used for nerves?
I really, I struggle real bad with anxiety, where a lot of people would sit down and see me dry reaching, either being sick in a bathroom or something like that. And back then they probably thought a lot of it was to do with alcohol, but it was actually, whether it be Super League or, you know, Tri-Series or New Zealand, I struggled really, really bad with anxiety. And so what I used to do is, and everybody will have this feeling at some stage, you're going into bat or bowl or field or whatever the case may be, but you'll start getting those butterflies, and those nerves will actually start getting to you. So what I used to do when I could feel that coming up, I used to put a name to it. So, I used to call him Johnny and say, "Hey, Johnny, how you going?" And I knew that, and so I put a name to that feeling. So it wasn't scary or as a nervous time. I was just, "Hey, mate, how you going?" "Yeah, I'm just about to go against, have a bet against Australia here. I'll come chat to you later, bro. Is that all good?" And I was having these chats in my mind to the feeling. And so when it came up, it wasn't, "Oh no, I'm clenching up again." I was like, "Hey, bro, look, man, I'm busy at the moment, cuz, like, can you let me get on with this?" And so it changed my mindset. For some people, they might think it's just quite far-fetched, but for me, man, it worked. And it showed in the last two times that, if the New Zealand stuff, the World Cup and the Trans-Tasman, compared to what I was just a walking wicket. I was a Chris Martin of the indoor cricket. But yeah, it was just putting a name to that feeling, and not letting it rule you rule it. I'll tell it when to go away. I'm busy at the moment. I'll come and have a chat to you later, type thing. So
that's crazy. It's such a cool technique, man. Like, I'm sure there's heaps of people out there listening that can utilize that, and go through those anxiety. I mean, everyone feels nervous when they're in the box, especially, or at the top of their mark, or even just walking on the court, for the first time in a big game. Like, people feel those nerves. And I remember I've always had a real big thing about facing real quick bowlers. Like, I'd have a real issue with it, as when I was quite young. And I remember coming up against Danny Morrison in an outdoor match. He'd just been coming back from an injury, was going to play a couple of club matches before he went on a New Zealand tour. He just needed to prove to himself and the guys that he was fit enough to go. And so he plays for North Shore, and so we ended up coming up against him. And like, he's probably my number one idol in my cricketing career. I've watched him ever since I was a kid in the mid '80s, bowling shit quick for Auckland, and modelled a lot of my action on him as well. And here's me going out to bat, and he's at the top of his mark, and he's going to bowl at me, and I'm like, shit. And I just remember saying to myself when I was batting, I was just like, here we go, and it was a big suck of breath, and I just watched the ball and faced a few. I think I faced it over from him or something like that. But it was, I used that same technique facing Heath Davis. He's probably the quickest outdoor bowler I've ever faced. Him and maybe Andy Mackay. Heath was real rapid and outdoor, and I've faced him for Auckland seconds at Eden Park, and it was the same thing, man. I was at the end in the box, and he's at the end of his mark with a new ball. It was the second new ball of the day, and I was like, righto, here we go. And it was the same thing. And then all of a sudden, I just started really getting a bit of confidence. The quicker the bowlers bowled, and it's the same in indoor now. I really like facing the quick guys, and I like taking that on, and I know I can survive. I know I'll be okay. There's less time for stuff to go through my head and start controlling things. You're almost playing off instinct. Can work really, really well for you, I reckon. In terms of favourite players to watch, or guys that you've played with and around, like who really excites you to watch an indoor cricket or play around?
My first one would have been Billy. He could do all three facets really, really well. And I could watch him sort of all day. The other one was Fitzy from Australia.
Rob Fitzgerald. Rob Fitzgerald. Yeah.
I think we've played against each other so many times now, but it just doesn't change. Just watching him play, is when he's on the field, he looks like he's just got so much time. So those two guys, I really loved, and obviously you bowling, it was your cutter that really that what I like watching, and it taught me quite a lot. And I don't know if you remember years and years ago, so I also had two cutters. So I've got the normal one, and then I've got the one that jumps, and you actually the one that got me to to get the one that jumps, about going over the ball.
Mm.
And but yeah, you got yourself steaming on in, but it was your cutter that I loved watching. Didn't like facing it, but loved watching. But yeah, Billy, just his leadership and everything like that. You know, I guess I've been blessed to play with and against so many legends of our sport. Not just from our country, but there's just so many people that have had different aspects. The mental side with Lee Kelly, Donkers, those guys that are just so mentally in tuned up there that they don't say much, but when they do talk, you listen. And but then you've got the wild guys like Mark Culkin and stuff that keep you grounded. There's so many that, I'm just, I look back now and think, man, how was I ever this lucky to play for 20 years at a international level, and played with so many guys. So yeah, that's good.
Mark Culkin just messaged me the other day after I spoke to Corey.
Yeah.
I think he's still in Darwin, of all places, Culky. I mean, in 02, like him and Billy batting together at 2, man, like I'm not sure. We've had some pretty amazing partnerships in New Zealand indoor. The way that they were playing back then, it would be pretty tough to beat. I mean, they're going to be in the conversation for strongest partnerships that New Zealand's ever put together, that's for sure. And it was awesome playing with him. He like you say, he's that real live wire and sort of plays with no fear, even though he does. He definitely has nerves, but he really looked like he was playing with no fear. He's him and Billy were great together. In terms of Billy, so is he your best player New Zealand's ever put out, you reckon?
I think for me it was, Robbie Kerr wouldn't have been, I guess, been too far from that. But for me, being around Billy so much, playing with him, indoor and then outdoor, I think that he offered something. Just, he was such a magician of the game. He knew what was going to happen before it even happened. So for me, it would be Graham.
What do you reckon? I meant to ask Corey this the other day as well, and I sort of forgot. But what do you reckon makes the difference between the best players and the really, really good players? So even at international level, where we really see, you can really tell who the best players are around. What do you reckon makes that difference? It's not purely talent, man. It's not
upstairs, bro. It's the mental side of it. Yeah, I really believe that you get to that level, I believe you've already got it physically, right? You get to that level, now you're at, I believe it switches, you're now at 80% mental, 20% talent, because you've already got that talent. You've already done the training, that's already there. The difference is, you're just playing against another person. They've still got 2 arms and 2 legs. It's just the color of the shirt. And so for me, it's the mental side that can flick and change it instantly. And I think, I'd like to believe that I'm living proof of that. It's just the mental side of it. As soon as you can get past that, that this guy, he's still got 2 arms and 2 legs. They just do it more consistently than anybody else. You probably face better balls or, better bowlers or better batsmen. But it's just the colour of their shirt, and they do it more consistently. But yeah, for me, it's definitely just the mental side of it.
Yeah, I've always wondered, when you watch a Dion Muir play or you watch a Billy Murray play in the field, Rob Fitzgerald, I just had a conversation with Vinesh Bennett last night, and him and Rob were probably the strongest batting partnership I've ever seen out of Australia. Now, I know there'll be a lot of Australians who probably have a different take on that, but they've definitely got to be in the conversation about it. And so Rob, just as a player, is right up there as well, and I just always wonder, what it really takes to be an exceptional player, like be that best player, and for indoor, it's got to be over all three facets, right? For me, just as a bowler, it was really about just purely the amount of work I did, and the amount of preparation. And if I'd prepared, I would play well. If I hadn't prepared, then that's where I'd come unstuck. It was quite a simple sort of process for me. What do you reckon, like in terms of mental state, like what mental state do you best perform in? What do you try and get yourself into?
There used to be two. The first one, I had to either be hungover because I used to be this imposter. So I think I genuinely believed
drinking culture, man. Is that old school drinking culture and indoor?
Correct. That's exactly it. So I thought that's how I had to be. But later on, it was just doing the right things. Like having a right meal, drinking plenty of water, but surrounding yourself with the right people. You go away on a tour, you'll have some guys like myself that used to be the team clown, and some people like Lee Kelly who used to be super serious at times. But surrounding yourself around the right people, and I thought that was really important. Hanging out with Hilly or LJ in the last Trans-Tasman sort of brought everything down quite a bit. Or you could hang out with Homie, or you can hang out with Ricky, and you're on the other end of the scale. But yeah, it's just, for me, it was just making sure that you're doing the little things right. Checking in on the family, making sure that your mates are all good. That's the part that I thought that I needed to look after first, and that calmed me down and everything like that.
Yeah. You're like you said before, it was one of the other areas I wanted to talk about was your coaching and how you've sort of made that transition. So 2017, was that your first real serious sort of coaching gig, or you'd done a bit of work before that with juniors, hadn't you, to Wellington?
Yeah, I've done all the stuff with our club and juniors and everything like that. But this was I'm just trying to think if it was Mark Senior. It might have actually been Mark Senior that had approached me and said, "Look, would you be? You're coming to pretty much coming to the end of your career. Do you want to? Are you keen to give back to the sport?" Like, the sort of thing has given me a wonderful opportunity in my life. What can I do to repay that? So I was 100%. Yep, count me in for whatever it was. So it was we had a home World Cup. And Nick Ward was looking after the New Zealand top side, and we had a New Zealand development side. And so, yeah, it was a World Cup down in Canterbury. And the best thing was me and Wardy, we worked together, not against each other. So we'd come back at the end of the day, would have a beer, and we'd sit there and say, look, who in the Aussies, what did you find? This guy here bowled, his third ball was a big off cutter every single time he got a third ball. It was this. So then we compared our notes, and we generally worked together, for the best for them to win a World Cup, and which they did. So that was my first serious sort of coaching gig. But yeah, it was really different. I found I learned bucket load because, I'd get grumpy and stroppy and going, how can you get out like that? And I'm just sitting there just going, man, that's exactly like I used to be, the coach killers. And that was exactly me. But I thought it was the junior stuff was really good because it's really an important role because they're the ones that are the future coming through, and you have the ability to either make them or break them. For me and Paul, when we had the New Zealand 22s, two guys that we had on that side went on to play first class cricket the following season. So you have the ability to make or break people in a good way, I guess. If you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm enjoying the coaching stuff now. And I think me and Paul work really well together. He's a really, really, really good technical coach. And I try to bring more of the mental side of things to the game, talking to players about, you're playing against Australia. This is what you've got to expect. They're going to come hard. I'll give the good old team talks to fire the boys up and everything like that. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the coaching stuff. Really am.
Is that how you would prefer your teams to play? A little bit more on edge, a little bit more fired up?
Certain people, I think you've got to be able to find who that works well for. If I said to Lee Kelly, bro, you need to play fired up every single guy, it's not going to work for them, right? So you need to find the right people that actually works for. Some people like, being yelled and screamed at. Some people just switch off. So you have to identify that pretty early on, because then that can be, then a player can shut down. It doesn't have to be a junior, it can be an adult or whatever. But for some people, it works really well. Some people, it doesn't.
One thing I've sort of had a look at, watching or recent Aussie sides play anyway, but then they sort of look at it and reflect back on past sides as well, as they, when they get an out, they're rah, just like any other team would be. But actually at the act of actually executing a shot or executing a delivery or executing in the field, they're actually quite cool, calm and collective. They're actually quite relaxed and just focused. Sometimes I think maybe that's a mistake where New Zealand players or New Zealand teams in the past have actually sort of got a little bit way too on edge, and that hasn't been managed all that well as a player. So it's good to see as a coach that you're sort of going, yeah, selected players need to be like that, others not so much, and then helping those players understand where they best need to be mentally to do the best they can as many times as they can, right?
Correct. Yeah, you just don't want to be running your mouth and and then all of a sudden that's what you're focusing on. You've got a job at hand. You've got to make sure you're either trying to catch the ball or hit the ball and stuff like that. You just need to pick and choose when you're going to do. I think I don't think that the talent that we've got is the issue. I think it's either self-belief or self-confidence, or there's just something that we've definitely closed the gap. Compared to Aussie, I think we've definitely closed the gap. But I just think there's just maybe one or two little things that are missing. Whether it be that mental decision of, do we take this run or what? And so I believe this game, this is what I was saying before, that this game is really, really mental at this level. Taking a dot ball here, taking a dot ball there, getting the running plans right. I think you've got Lee and Rowdy at the moment with a pretty smart cricketers at the top. Then you've got myself and PA, looking after the 22s. We all know each other really, really well. And so me and PA know exactly what Lee and Rowdy want. So, we try to mold them. And, if I was looking after the 17s come to the 22s, and 22s go to the men. So there's a pathway the whole way through. I think, little things like what you and Hendo are doing with these podcasts and these chats, there are people that are, I've been getting messages all the time, from juniors saying, man, that was actually really cool. I've just sat there and learned how to down up off my legs, you've taught me about nerves or whatever the case may be. But this didn't happen. None of these, there wasn't much social media back in the day, thank God. But, but this wasn't around when we were there.
Yeah, and it's great. I've had a truckload of messages come through as well, which is fantastic, and it's nice just to be able to do this, because I love talking to guys. It brings us. I can't remember the last time you and I had a deep conversation together. It's been a while, but it's a great platform for us to be able to do that. And if other people enjoy it, then awesome, man. That's it's great to be able to give. Because it doesn't take a huge amount of effort to do this sort of thing, if you love doing it, you love doing it. I just need people to pay me to do it. I need to earn some money doing it, then I'll do more of them. Anybody out there? Yeah. You brought up a good point. It went out of my head before. It was about the execution. Oh yeah, and it's the understanding, like you're talking about performing against Australia, you know, and it's not just getting guys in the right frame to perform against Australia in a test match. It's actually for game 5, 2-2, you know, the game's even and your partnership's crucial, or this over is the big one. And having guys in the right frame of mind to execute then. That's the crucial part, I reckon, because we have got ourselves really close. The last Trans-Tasman especially was, you know, right down to the wire. But, you know, if you were ever going to place money on a team in that position, it probably wouldn't have been the black team. Just purely because they'd been there before, they'd executed before, they've done that sort of stuff, they know how to win. New Zealand's still got to just try and find that a little bit. And I think we're close, man. And like you say, Rowdy and Lee are great leaders. Yeah, and I do believe that they're the guys that are going to do something pretty special with that group.
No, I agree. I think when it started with the culture, you know, bringing in past players and, you know, what the silver fern actually means. You're just, you know, you're not mates who just turned up and got selected. This is, there's some pride behind it. You know, learning about the history of our game and all of those things. I think, yeah, what Lee and Rowdy are doing, I think it's really important. I think, you know, it breeds good cricketers. You know, and I think you're right about, you know, losing those close games. You know, winning's a habit, and unfortunately, so is losing. But as soon as I reckon we can get past that one, that is 2-2. We get past that. I think, you know, that's the monkey off the back type thing. But I think Rat's got a really good core of players around him there. And, you know, and I think obviously COVID's screwing a lot of things up, but I think that, you know, there's some history about to be made, to be fair.
Yeah, we'll come through COVID, man. We'll get through there, we'll survive, give it another shot next year, and hopefully some international cricket can get going, and we can all be a part of that, and see some good cricket played, because Australia's still going, man. They're you know, amazing group of players coming out of there, and it really blew me away actually listening to Nick DeGrees talk to Hendo the other week, you know, about it. Just really opened my eyes up about the state championship thing, really, you know, like a whole week of hard out cricket is tougher than any World Cup that they're ever going to come across. And you sort of look at it, you go, yeah, I don't think anyone can really disagree with that, you know. Yeah, I wish that there would have been the opportunity to go over and play one of those, man, when we were a bit younger. It would have been pretty amazing. I know they're still doing Masters one, I think, so maybe there's an opportunity there. But yeah, it'd be fantastic just to tour over there, take the families over and play some real hard out cricket for a week. It'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was always that would have been such an amazing thing, you know, because it just sounds so hard. You know, when you're hearing from guys like Nick and, you know, these guys talking about their champs and how hard it is, man, you know, I'd love something like that. It just, you know, yeah, it's a whole week, but, well, you know, that's nothing even on our tri series back in the day when we had 3 teams. You know, that would have been something I would love to have. But, you know, money, there's so many different variables that can happen, or reasons why. But yeah, it's probably a fair reason why we could also be struggling. The quality of cricket, or the amount of quality of cricket. I think the games that we do have at the moment, yeah, they're good, but I think it just needs to be more. You need to play against good people more often. You know, you can play in one tournament and you go back and play Super League, and it's, you know, it's a little bit easier. But I think that consistently playing against good, tough players all the time. And this is why I was looking forward to what Rowdy and Rad got, that, you know, that 3-game series or 5-game series and 2 New Zealand teams. You know, that would be so good to watch. You know, 20 of the country's best players going at each other, you know, and that would have been just after sort of the provincials that we had, you know. So, yeah, that would have been bloody awesome.
Yeah. At the provincials this year, which I was fortunate enough to play this Southern Districts team, and I think it's fair to say we were probably the weaker side there. It was exactly like you just said. It was game after game after game was a tough game. Because we were the weaker side, but everyone else was had all of the different challenges, played the game a little bit differently. Some had quicks in there, others weren't, played differently, and were maybe a stronger batting unit. But yeah, it is that consistent graft day in, day out that can really increase levels and make players better players. And I'd agree, man. It would be great to play more and more of that tough cricket in some way. I'm not sure, but who excites you around the scene at the moment, the New Zealand scene, like guys coming through?
Braden Gardner, quick. Really, really keen on that. We've the 22s. We had Joey Field. He's playing for CD at the moment. He was away with the New Zealand 19s in outdoor. We've got Micah Conroy. There's just so many good cricketers coming through. But again, we need them to be playing more and more, which means that they're playing against guys that they're only going to get better against. I'm looking forward to these young guys coming through. But I think Braden Gardner and the men's, I love a good quick man, and not scared to pin someone. I heard Victor got pinned from somebody. I miss those days. I really miss those days of pinning.
Well,
someone.
there's 4 or 5 guys going around now that are above quick. They're above. They're hitting that sort of rapid pace, and maybe not international rapid just yet, but certainly for New Zealand indoor cricket standards, there's 4 or 5 guys running around at the moment that are getting it through with a lot of heat. Toddy Watson, Jared Tuddy, Michael Barry, Braids as well, as you're talking about. Like these guys are getting it through, man. And it's great to see. Yeah, and they're doing it with a softer ball, and they're still able to get it down there, and they're not just relying on little off cutters and that sort of thing like some of us. But yeah, man, there are some exciting young guys coming through, and it all sort of started stemming from that 17 World Cup, the Junior World Cup that you were a part of, and seeing those players start flying through. Michael Conroy, you mentioned before as well, is a pretty special sort of player. Still looks like a little boy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Micah. Shout out to Micah. Yeah, great player. No, he's a fantastic kid, and yeah, a real special player as well. So be good to see. Good to see next season, and hopefully we can get into it. What's your plans as a player? You're obviously not going to play too much anymore, but you're going to coach.
Yeah, I try. So I try to like this season. I got a group of social outdoor cricketers to come in and play, to play some indoor. They never played indoor before, and we've just ended up winning the Super League title in the opens grade, first thing. So I'm going in there. I'm just bowling left arm darts because I've got a torn bicep. So I'm bowling left arm spin. So I'm getting every third ball on the pitch. I can bat and I can field. I just can't bowl, get my right arm over. So they've got to reattach that. But that's, that was a big focus. And I'm keen to carry on with those. Some of the guys are still keen to carry on. Season's finished, but they can carry on to train and everything like that. So we've got a New Zealand badminton player in our team. We've got a New Zealand handball player in our team. So they're just, man, they come from different backgrounds, but the best thing is they're so keen to learn, which is really cool, and it's quite refreshing. But a lot of my time in the off season will be done trying to find a new centre because WIS is closing the doors.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So, yep, unfortunately. So,
wow.
Yep. So, yeah, we've got a couple of ideas up our sleeve, but this is going to take more than a Sunni Chan to get this over the line. So this is going to be a big thing. So
is that because of COVID and lockdowns.
Yeah, there's a few reasons, but COVID obviously hasn't helped. You've seen it over in Australia where they've just had to close their doors as well. But there's so much more that you can do now these days with, your $14 a game or whatever it is. So it's just, a few different things that have gone on, but it sort of sucks because it's sort of been home since I was probably around about 13. Having quite a few teams to only having 3 teams to now we were sending, I think, 8 teams to nationals. Sort of doing the coaching, and we've got a group of around about 200. We do raffles and quiz nights, and it's got a real good family feel to it. We hold regular tournaments and everything like that, but now it's gone.
When did you get told that, and when are they closing the doors?
So the final date is October 31st. I got wind of it because I was looking out at the centre last season. It was spoken about last season, where we need to try to get numbers up. Unfortunately, it didn't really happen. Netball's dropped off. Obviously, netball's the breadwinner for an indoor sports centre. Netball were dropped off. And for whatever other reasons, it's just had to close down. So got a few smart people in the group. We're looking at buildings and everything like that. But again, this day and age, it's so hard, so expensive to get something up. So
Oh man, I wish you all the best with that. Look, if there's any sort of shining light, if you can use Harbour as an example, but we lost our centre in 2014, and have been relatively centreless. I wouldn't say too centreless, because we have had Planet to be able to train at, and I guess call a bit of a home. But it's not called Harbour, and I guess we've just sort of been using that temporarily along the way. My understanding is Harbour's got a new centre opening up. It was supposed to be the end of this year, but because of everything going on, it's into next year now. And Peter's opening up a larger centre in Albany, which sounds pretty exciting. So Harbour might eventually actually have its own home again. But I guess my point being is that the club can survive by just playing out of other centres, but still being a centre, if you know what I mean. It's still being a club. So hopefully the group of players can still play together and stay together and do what they do.
No, I agree. I think it's just a little bit, it's still quite tough at the moment, but I think Dave Bell said it best, the building doesn't define us. No. It's the people around us. Exactly. And we've got some really good, loyal people. We have major sponsors for our centre. We train with new balls, and we have everything going for us. It's just we're just got to get over this little hurdle. And once we get over this hurdle, then who knows what happens.
Yeah, cool, man.
So if anyone out there's got any ideas, then feel free to hit me up.
Absolutely. Yeah, hopefully there's some rich guys around with a bit of money. We can start throwing it around for us a little bit. We'll love them. We'll love them. Yeah. Hey man, let's wrap this bitch up. Absolute pleasure talking to you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, I'm so glad that we obviously got to play together a few years back, and after spending so long bowling at each other and trying to take each other's nuts out. But love you heaps, man. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, bro. Thank you, bro.
All right, man.